Now we'll look at more advanced equations. These equations involve two steps. So what I'm going to do is represent it first on a balance. 2x minus 3 equals 5. So I have 2 x's, 3 red on the left, and 5 yellow on the right. To eliminate the 3 red, I'm going to put 3 yellow, keeping my balance. I must put the 3 yellow on the right as well. From my inverse property, those cancel and equal 0. I have 8 yellow to spread out over 2x. So my goal is to find out what each single x represents. So if I have 2 x's and I have 8 yellow, I know that each x is going to be equal to 4. So x is equal to 4. Trying my equation and solving it algebraically. What I must do first before I divide, as I did on my scale, is find out how many pieces I must divide into my x's. So over on here, I'm going to add 3 to both sides of my equation. Because again, my goal is to find out what a single x is equal to, so I get 3 out of the way. And now I have 2x equals 8. So my second step is to find out what each single x is by dividing by 2, and x is equal to 4. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Checking my answer, 2 times x. I'm going to substitute x now in as the value of 4. Subtract 3, and is that equal to 5? 2 times 4 is 8. 8 minus 3 is equal to 5. So I've solved it correctly. Trying the next equation, 3x plus 4 equals negative 5. So now I have 3 x's, 4 yellows, and 5 reds, and the reds are on the right-hand side. My task is to get and find one single x, not all 3. So the first thing I need to do is see how many pieces I have in which to divvy up among those 3. So I'm putting my inverse, the inverse of 4 yellow or 4 red. I must balance my equation. Using the inverse property, we know that these are going to simplify and make 0. So now with 3 x's, I have to divvy up all of these pieces. Well, if I look how many I had negative 5 of them there, or 5 red, and I brought 4 more over, so I have 9. So each x then gets a share of these 9 red pieces, and so sharing them evenly, each of these x's would then equal 3. So x is equal to 3 red, so we're going to call that negative. Solving my equation using my inverse properties. Again, my goal is to get get the x isolated by getting rid of the 3 and the 4. We need to get rid of the 4 first. We need to find out how many pieces I have in which I can share among those 3 x's. So using my inverse for addition, I put a negative 4, subtract 4 on each side. My left-hand side is 3x. My right-hand side is negative 9. Using the second inverse property, the division, which will undo this multiplication, dividing each side by 3, x is equal to negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. Checking my answer, 3 times x, well, x now is negative 3, adding 4, is that equal to negative 5? Negative 9 plus 4 is equal to negative 5. Last equation, again, to represent it, I have only a half of an x. So I have just a piece of an x. I have 3 red, and that completes the left-hand side. The right-hand side has 2 red. Again, before I share up these pieces, I need to get them all together. So I'm going to use my inverse property. I'm going to move these to the other side of my equal sign. Those will all cancel out and give me a 0. So I have half of an x. Now what we need to look at here is this red and this yellow will cancel each other. This red and this yellow will cancel each other. So I have a half of an x is equal to 1. So a half of an x, so just 1/2 of an x, is equal to 1 yellow. So if a half of an x is equal to yellow, I want a whole x. So I need another half to make that a whole. and that's also equal to 1 yellow. So if a half is 1 yellow and a second half is 1 yellow, a whole x would be equal to positive 2. A whole x would be equal to positive 2. Let's check using algebra. Again, I must get my pieces together before I divide them up. I will add positive 3 to both sides. And I'm left with x over 2 is equal to positive 1. Using my inverse property with respect to multiplication and division, I'll multiply by 2 over 1 on both sides. The 2's reduce to a 1. X is equal to 1 times 2 is 2. Checking my answer, 2 divided by 2. Again, I substituted x in for what I found it to be in my answer. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 minus 3 should be negative 2. Should be equal to negative 2, and it is.